Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome back once again to the last session of chapter number 7, that is hydrogen. Asit. Today I will take a quick recapitulation of whatever I have taken up in this chapter. So let's quickly revise. So we know that hydrogen is the simplest and the lightest of all known elements, and we all know it is a non-metal. And it is a reactive element, and a single hydrogen atom cannot exist on its own, and thus it exists in the form of a hydrogen molecule in this form. So its formula is H2. So we all know that the atomic number of hydrogen is 1, and the symbol is H, and the mass number is also 1. Is that clear? And it was studied, who studied this, the property of this particular element? It was Henry Cavendish who studied the properties of hydrogen, this scientist, and later on it was Antoine Lavoisier who named it as hydrogen, which means water producer. Is that clear? So we know that this is the most abundant element in the universe, and even the sun and the stars are mainly composed of hydrogen, but the amount of hydrogen that is present on the earth crust is very small, because it is just not occurring in the free form but in the combined form. It is much more abundant. That is 70% of earth is made up of water, a compound of hydrogen only. Is it clear? It is present in very small quantity in volcanic gases and coal mines. In the combined state, it combines with other elements to form compounds. So some common compounds we all know: water, that is H2O, then HCl, these are the various compounds, then HNO3, H2SO4, H3PO4, NaOH, CH4, C2H5, there are so many, there are innumerable hydrogen compounds. We know water is the most important compound of hydrogen, and it covers almost 2/3 of the earth's surface. Then coming to the preparation of hydrogen, it is prepared by electrolysis of water, then by the action of water and acids on metals, then it is prepared in the lab, and next is the industrial preparation, that is the Bosch process. That is, first let us understand what electrolysis is. That is, hydrogen gas first method that we know is that it can be prepared by electrolysis of acidulated water. What is electrolysis? So what is electrolysis? It is the process in which an electric current is passed to an aqueous solution, that is in the form of a liquid, of a substance or a molten state. Exactly, when you can see the wax, how it of the candle, how it melts when the candle burns. That is the molten form of a substance, and this is the process in which an electric current is passed through an aqueous solution of a substance or a molten state of a substance to bring about a chemical change, and this process is known as electrolysis. In other words, we can say that chemical reactions that take place only under the influence of electric current are called electrochemical reactions. Is that clear? So for splitting up certain compounds, we need to pass electricity through them, as we have seen in the case of sodium chloride. When I was teaching you, when aqueous solution of sodium chloride is taken, then how does it split up into sodium and chlorine? So it splits up into the Na plus and Cl minus. These are known as the ions, or ions, electrically charged atoms or groups. So they have a positive charge or a negative charge, and they are formed by decomposition of electrolytes. What is an electrolyte? It is a substance or a chemical compound that conducts electricity by dissociating into ions when dissolved into a solvent, or it is a substance in aqueous or molten form which dissociate into ion and can conduct heat and electricity. Just because of the dissociation or breakup into ions, the electricity can be conducted. Is that clear? So they form electrolytes dissociate into ions, and these ions are of two types, that is the positive ions and the negative ions. You can see this, that these are the electrodes, and this is the electrolyte, that is sodium chloride mixed in water with sodium chloride has been mixed. Is that clear? It becomes an aqueous solution of sodium chloride. So when electricity is passed through this, that is through the with the help of these electrodes, that is these are the conducting poles through which the current enters and leaves the electrolyte. These are known as the electrodes, and through this, when the current passes through the electrolyte, what happens? The electrolyte, in this case sodium chloride, split up into Cl minus and Na plus. This is the setup, and this setup is the electrolytic cell. So these positively charged ions are called as the cations, and the negatively charged ions are known as the anions. So when an atom loses electron, it becomes a positively charged ion, and examples I have just shown you for sodium plus, and similarly other metal ions like potassium plus, then ammonium plus, then calcium, lead. These are all cations, and when an atom gains electron, it becomes a negatively charged ions, and they are called as the anions, and they are usually non-metals. Is that clear? They are non-metals, and cations are usually metal ions. So I have shown you this to you, and these are the differences between the anions and cations. And I have told you what an electrolyte. It is a chemical compound that conducts electricity by dissociating into ions when dissolved into a solvent. And acids, bases and salts are examples of electrolytes. So on the basis of the degree of dissociation, they are divided into strong electrolytes and weak electrolytes. So substances that dissociate completely into the ions in an aqueous solution are called strong electrolytes. Is that clear? They dissociate completely, like sodium chloride, hydrochloric acid and so on. Similarly, strong bases, for example, we have sodium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide. These are all strong bases. They are also strong electrolytes. Weak electrolytes, substances that do not dissociate completely into the ions in an aqueous solution, they are known as the weak electrolytes. Is that clear? So they are the basic, they are weak acids and weak bases. Is it clear? So a few insoluble ionic compounds and water, these all weak electrolytes. Then non-electrolyte, a chemical compound that does not dissociate into ion when dissolved in a solvent and do not conduct electricity, is called a non-electrolyte. For example, sulfur, glucose, urea, naphthalene, sugar and so on. These are all non-electrolytes. Is that clear? They do not dissolve into dissociate into ion when dissolved in a solvent. Even if you mixed sugar in water and becomes soluble in water, it makes a sugar syrup or sugar solution, then also when you pass current through it, it will not dissociate into ions. And coming to this diagram once more, I had told you what is electrode, that is the conducting rods or plates through which current enters or leaves the electrolytes are called as the electrode, and they are made up of metals or graphite. Is that clear? So the electrode connected to the negative terminal of the battery is called, you can see this is the negative terminal of the battery. This sign over here that you can see of like this is the battery sign, this is the battery. So the electrode, this is the electrode, that is the conducting pole through which the current enters or leaves the electrolyte. This is connected to the negative terminal of the battery, and this is known as the cathode, while the one which is connected to the positive terminal of the battery is called the anode. Is that clear? Electric current leaves the electrolyte through the cathode and it enters the electrolyte through the anode. Is that clear? So cations migrate and discharge at the cathode, while the anions, these are the cations and these are the anions. So cations migrate and discharge at the cathode, while the anions migrate and discharge at the anode. Then coming to the electrolytic cell of voltmeter, this is an electrolytic cell of voltmeter also, and this is a glass or plastic container that has two electrodes and electrolyte, and this is called as the electrolytic cell or a voltmeter. And the process of electrolysis is conducted in this or carried out in this. So what is happening is that when an electrolyte dissolves in water, it forms ions, and this process is called as ionization. You can see this has split it up into ions, and this is called as ionization. And when current passes through the electrolyte, these ions move towards oppositely charged electrode. That is, the positively charged will move towards the negative electrode, and negatively charged will move towards the positive electrode. And just electrolyte conducts electricity due to the movement of these ions only. If this does not dissociate, then there will be no movement through this, because when the electricity sets in from here, then the current will stop over here. It will not pass further unless and until this electrolyte splits up into ions. Is it clear? Now the electrolysis of water. This is a similar setup as shown in your books. That is, when an electric current passes through acidulated water, the water is a poor conductor of electricity, so we have to mix a few drops of dilute sulfuric acid so that it becomes a good conductor. So water molecule dissociate into hydrogen ions and hydroxide ion. Is that clear? And hydrogen ion move towards the cathode and forms hydrogen, while the hydroxide ion move towards the anode and form the oxygen gas. So you can see at the cathode we have the hydrogen gas, and at the anode we have the oxygen gas. Is it clear? So hydrogen and oxygen are collected at cathode and anode respectively in the ratio that is 2:1. That is why the formula is H2O. Is that clear? Then coming to the reactivity series of metals. We all know that metals are arranged in a series in the descending order of the reactivity on the and this is called the reactivity series. This is the descending order of the reactivity. That is, the potassium is the most reactive, and over here silver is the least reactive. This is another series which we will discuss later on, not in this chapter. So this is silver, and we have, after this we have gold as well as platinum, which is given in your book. So platinum is the least reactive. It plays at the bottom of the series. Even hydrogen is placed in this series just because it is electropositive in nature. That's just because it can lose electron. It loses electron. Is that clear? So all the elements or all the elements which are above hydrogen in the reactivity series can displace hydrogen. Exactly clear? So I will show you, for example, it is potassium plus water, the reaction. Now this is a hydrogen containing compound. Just because it is reactive, much more reactive than hydrogen, you can see the position of hydrogen, and you can see it over here, the position of potassium. It can easily take its place over here, displace it, and form potassium hydroxide, and hydrogen gas will be liberated. Is that clear? And all the elements which are placed below hydrogen in the reactivity series will not be able to displace hydrogen from the compounds like water and acids to form hydrogen gas. Is it clear? Then the preparation of hydrogen by other methods. I told you earlier also that the ease with which the metals higher up in the reactivity series will be much more as compared to the one which are lower in the reactivity series. So the preparation of hydrogen by the action of water and acids on metals, the reaction between the metals which are higher up in the reactivity series, that is potassium, sodium, calcium. Now what happens when we are using water to for reaction, when we are using metals for the reaction to form hydrogen, that is potassium, I told you just now, reacts with water to form potassium hydroxide and hydrogen gas is liberated. This is the reaction. Here you will put 2 over here. Is that clear? Now we use cold water for potassium, sodium, calcium. Is that clear? And they react readily with cold water to produce hydrogen gas. And then as you moved on the reactivity series, the temperature of water has to be increased. For example, with magnesium it has to be boiling water. Then with other metals, they will react with steam, like zinc, iron, aluminium. They all will react with steam, and the products, instead of hydroxide, they will form the metal oxide, magnesium oxide, aluminium oxide, zinc oxide, or ferric oxide. Is that clear? And this reaction, which is between iron and water, is a reversible reaction. Is it clear? The next is by the action of dilute acids on active metals. Then again, metals like magnesium, zinc and iron react with dilute acids like dilute hydrochloric acid or dilute sulfuric acid to liberate hydrogen gas, and they form the corresponding salt and hydrogen gas is liberated. You can see magnesium reacts with dilute hydrochloric acid to form magnesium chloride and hydrogen gas is liberated. Similarly with sodium, it forms sodium chloride and hydrogen gas is liberated, and similarly for zinc and iron. And dilute nitric acid is not used in the preparation of hydrogen for metal. It is because it is a strong oxidizing agent. Oxidizing agent, I have told you, it adds oxygen even dilute form. So it oxidizes hydrogen and forms water. Is that clear? That is why it is not used. It gets reduced to what? Any of the oxides. It can be N2O, NO or NO2. And concentrated sulfuric acid is also not used in the preparation because it gets reduced to sulfur dioxide and water. You can see this reaction. Sulfur dioxide and water are formed. And we cannot use concentrated HCl also, just because it gives hydrogen chloride gas as a volatile impurity along with hydrogen. So this is the reason for not using the other acids. We just use dilute sulfuric acid and dilute hydrochloric acid. Then the laboratory preparation of hydrogen. Now you can see this setup. We have used zinc granules, then we have used dilute sulfuric acid, zinc granules in a flat bottom flask, a 2-holed rubber tube stopper in which a thistle funnel is there and a delivery tube, and this is the beehive shelf which is placed at the bottom, and this is the gas jar placed in a trough which contains water. We take a few zinc granule in a clean flat bottom flask, fix a rubber stopper on the mouth of the flask, and then place a thistle funnel through one hole and the delivery tube through the other. You can see in this figure. Is that clear? Then fix the other end of the delivery tube to beehive shelf. You can see this is the beehive shelf, and the other end of the delivery tube is fixed over here to this shelf, and this is placed under water which is taken in a trough. Is that clear? Now we fix the other end of the delivery tube to a beehive shelf, beg your pardon, then pour dilute sulfuric acid through the thistle funnel until all the zinc granules are covered with the acid. So this should be in contact with the surface of the acid. Thistle funnel should be in contact. What do we observe? We observe a vigorous reaction. You see it in the form of bubbles or effervescence as soon as we add the acid. So we see the bubbles of hydrogen gas coming out from the surface of the zinc granules. So first we allow the first few bubbles of the gas to escape as they contain air, and now invert a gas jar completely. This gas jar inverted completely filled with water over the beehive shelf. Now what happens is that the hydrogen gas displaces water and gets collected in the gas jar. And this method of preparation is known as, here beehive shelf is there, here the gas jar is there, which is inverted, placed upside down in a trough which contains water. Is that clear? So this is known as the downward displacement of water. Now what do we see, that hydrogen is lighter than air, thus it can be collected by downward displacement of air, but we cannot do this because hydrogen forms an explosive mixture with air. As soon as it is going to come in contact with air, an explosion will occur. So it is very unsafe and very risky. So hydrogen is sparingly soluble in water, thus it absorbs moisture during collection by downward displacement of water. A dry hydrogen gas is obtained when it is collected over mercury. So the method that we have used, we have traces of moisture also present with the gas which is collected, but the gas which is collected over mercury is dry because it contains no traces of hydrogen. And this apparatus should be airtight. This is the precaution, and it should not be brought near a flame just because hydrogen gas is inflammable. And the lower end of the thistle funnel must be completely covered with dilute acid to avoid the escape of the gas evolved through the funnel. Exactly, it should be in contact with the surface of the acid. Now why do we use just zinc and not any other metal for the laboratory preparation of hydrogen? Now sodium and potassium, they react with acid violently. They are very active metals, so we cannot use them. And calcium and magnesium are cost effective, that is, they are expensive metals. So we have to keep in mind the economical nature. Then aluminium forms a protective layer of aluminium oxide on its surface, so it does not let the acid react effectively with the metal to form the hydrogen gas. And iron needs what? It has to be heated, and due to this, impurities like hydrogen sulfide and sulfur dioxide gas are produced. Is that clear? So we cannot use iron also. And lead forms other compounds, like for example lead chloride with dilute hydrochloric acid and lead sulfate with sulfuric acid respectively. Is that clear? So it reacts with dilute sulfuric acid or hydrochloric acid to form salts. Now we cannot even use the metals like copper, mercury, etc., because they lie below hydrogen in the activity series, so they will not be able to displace hydrogen from its compound, from the acid in this case. Is that clear? There will be no reaction, hence no hydrogen will be produced. So we end up over here. We will revise further in the next lecture, inshallah. Allah Hafiz.